The Super Bowl is over, and I am here to tell you that a curse is happening that nobody is talking about. The NIL. I hate it. You hate it. But it's here to stay. Is it time that college football had a cap? And USA Today put out a list of the greatest players by number in NFL history. And we're here to tell you most of that list is wrong. That and more coming up on Sports Talk with Dad right now. Welcome back to another amazing episode of Sports Talk with Dad. As always, my name is Kyle, and I cannot call this Sports Talk with Dad without the man sitting next to me, a man who was alive before dogs were domesticated. My dad, Tim.
That may be the oldest you've ever made me.
I said when dirt was new once.
Yeah, you did.
That was an older one.
Wow.
What's really fun, by the way, because we do practice this before just to make sure we're all set. I love it when I'm able to change it into something new. Catch you off guard.
I've never had a pet wolf. I didn't domesticate them. We've got a pet golden retriever that thinks he's half human.
Yeah, I don't like. We can get rid of him anytime.
No,
you told that story on this show. You tricked me into getting that dog.
Nope.
Yes, you did.
No, I did not.
Yes, we're not going to rehash that because we have a lot of stuff to talk about today, but make no mistake, this man tricked me into getting that dog.
Your children needed a dog.
No, they did not.
Yes, they did.
You know who really doesn't need a dog? Me. Because who takes care of the dog? Me.
Who does the dog love most?
Me.
I rest my case.
It wasn't supposed to be this way. What also wasn't supposed to be this way, at least to 49ers fans, is the ending score of the Super Bowl.
I wasn't that impressed with it. Was kind of boring the first part of the game. I mean,
yes.
There wasn't a lot of scoring back and forth.
Unless you were watching Nickelodeon.
I never turned it on.
I know.
You kept texting me with updates that I hadn't seen yet.
Yeah, the Nickelodeon broadcast was a good 10 seconds ahead of the CBS broadcast, which was really weird, which is why I just watched the Nickelodeon one for the most part, because it was ahead.
You're texting me, they scored. They did not. They haven't even snapped the damn ball yet.
But it is officially, that was the most watched Super Bowl, or most watched TV show in the history of television.
I think it beat another Super Bowl, and
it did. It is in history. It beat last year's Super Bowl by 7%.
There was a young lady that was a very large part of that in attendance.
Like it or not, Taylor Swift had a big thing to do with that.
She has moved the needle.
I'll be honest, I think Nickelodeon had a lot to do with that too. Because they had SpongeBob on there, they were sliming people. Nickelodeon did a great job with that broadcast.
I wanted to watch football.
I did too, and I did.
I didn't need to see SpongeBob.
It was really bad because they obviously had the actors that do Patrick and SpongeBob also doing, and they clearly didn't know enough about football to be doing the broadcast. But it was interesting nonetheless. I did enjoy it.
I'll take your. I know I sound like that old guy now watching it on Nickelodeon, but
you are that old guy. I mean, we just determined that you domesticated the first dog, so you are that old.
No, I'm not.
One thing nobody is talking about right now, and I came up with this after the Super Bowl.
You brought this up to me, and
the 49ers are cursed.
They've lost, what?
3 Super Bowls now.
They haven't won since 94?
Since the Steve Young one. So, let's go back in history for a second here, if you will. In 1993, I think it was, right? They decided they are going to go with Steve Young instead of Joe Montana. Weren't even going to let Joe Montana compete. They just said, Steve Young is the starter, you're our backup. So Joe Montana said, oh, and I don't want to be here. Right. I want to play football. So he was traded to
Kansas City Chiefs.
Kansas City Chiefs. It was almost a Chiefs-Niners Super Bowl, but they lost in the AFC Championship.
They did.
Who have the 49ers now lost to twice in a row?
The Chiefs.
The Kansas City Chiefs. The Niners are cursed.
They haven't won since...
And it is the Joe Montana curse.
They haven't won since Montana left. Well other than
Steve Young got the monkey off his back. So
right.
They traded to win one Super Bowl with Steve Young that they would have probably won with Joe Montana.
I don't know if you sent it to me or if you saw the short that was going around with Joe Montana.
Yes.
He's like, I still think I was a better quarterback.
Yes. You sent that to me, and that's what made me realize the 49ers have the Joe Montana curse.
With his the different ways they've lost, I can't argue with too much.
Last second losses all the time with a bunch of different quarterbacks. The issue is they've never had a Hall of Fame quarterback or a star quarterback. They've gone twice with Jimmy Garoppolo and now once with Brock Purdy. And we don't know what Brock Purdy's going to be. He looked pretty good.
He did, but I think his ceiling isn't a lot higher than where it is now.
A great quarterback on that team would have been 3 touchdowns ahead of the Chiefs in the first half.
I think so. If you put a Hall of Fame quarterback or if you put Joe Montana on that team.
Let's talk about this too. I'm hearing rumor the 49ers didn't know the overtime rules.
I've heard that too. I also heard that they had some analytics that said you have to play for the 3rd possession in overtime.
Well, I didn't know when Tony Romo said this is like the first quarter. I don't know when that changed.
We all were like, wait a minute, why aren't they calling timeout with under a minute left?
Right, because before second overtime was you kicked the ball again.
Right.
And it didn't end up mattering anyway. But I didn't know they changed it in the playoffs. I hate when they have different rules for the playoffs than the regular season. I think that's a joke. You don't have different rules for the regular season and the playoffs unless you're continuing playing because you need a winner. That makes sense. But they changed it to where in the regular season, you kick a field goal, the game goes on, score a touchdown, it's over. In the playoffs, both teams get a chance, touchdown or not.
Which I think is a better way to go. It's not fair. And this all came from the Mahomes and Josh Allen.
It did.
Both teams should have a chance to touch the ball.
If the defense can't stop you from scoring a touchdown, then both teams shouldn't get a chance. Your defense is part of that game too. I agree with kicking the field goal, the other team gets a chance. I agree with that because your defense did something.
You really wanted the Super Bowl if San Francisco goes down and scores a touchdown, you want that to be over.
Yeah. Your defense didn't stop them at all. Your defense has to stop them.
I don't agree with that at all.
But the Niners obviously wanted the ball a 3rd time, but I just don't agree with the strategy, number one. And number two, you got to score a touchdown in that situation if you know the rules are, no matter if you score a touchdown or not, the other team gets the ball.
Yeah, because they're going to get the ball anyway, so 3 points isn't really going to do you any good unless, of course, they go down and kick a field goal. It would have made it real easy. If they go for the touchdown and they don't get it, Mahomes just has to get in field goal range, game's over.
Right.
But by San Francisco just getting that field goal, I knew Mahomes was going to go down and score.
Everybody knew that.
I mean, Mahomes is too good.
He is.
And that's the difference. Could Purdy have situations reversed? Would Purdy have led his team down there?
Knowing the rules that if they get a touchdown or not, the other team gets a chance, why would you take the ball first, winning that coin toss?
You never should take the ball first. You always take it second.
Because they knew they had to score a touchdown to win, so they were just going to drive down for that touchdown, including going on 4th and 1. They had no choice but to go and score.
Maybe Shanahan didn't understand the rules. I know Andy Reid, they went through what overtime was in every practice.
Correct.
So they knew what they were going to do, down to the point where that if San Francisco scored a touchdown and then they got the ball, they were going for 2.
Correct.
They were going to win it or lose it.
They were not giving the ball to San Francisco a 3rd time.
They were not. For the very reason.
For the Niners players to not even understand the rule changes, that if they would have scored a touchdown, the Chiefs get the ball either way. That's a different ball game.
If they really didn't, Shanahan's too good a coach not to know that, right?
Several players are saying they didn't know that. Several players on the 49ers.
Several Chiefs players didn't know that. The guy who caught the winning touchdown didn't know it.
Zero Chiefs that didn't know that situation. In fact, every Chiefs player was saying, yeah, we've been going over this for 2 weeks.
No, they were. But the guy who caught the winning touchdown.
Okay, the guy who caught the winning touchdown who was cut by the Jets and signed at the last minute, I'm not too worried about.
Got it.
The fact that George Kittle didn't seem to know the overtime rules is a problem.
Talk about playing Casper the Ghost. He was not in that game. I don't know if they didn't target him or if he really was hurt.
They had him blocked for the most part. I mean, they had somebody on him at all times. The Steve Spagnuolo, he is an interesting cat because the fact that he's not getting another head coaching spot is surprising to me. And maybe he's not going for him. But he was a head coach once with the Rams when they were in St. Louis and they were going to move anyway.
Right.
And so they weren't trying to win, which is why the attendance was so bad in St. Louis. And then right before they moved, they fired him and hired McVay.
I got to be honest with you. There was a play towards the end of the game. They disguised that blitz so well.
So well.
San Francisco had no idea. And yet there was Jones, guys,
Chris Jones.
Chris Jones, thank you. He was in Purdy's face before he knew what happened.
Yeah.
Completely screwed it up. Kansas City gets the ball
That's
back.
what I'm saying. He is the best defensive coordinator in this league.
Certainly up there. And maybe he's happy as a defensive coordinator. Wouldn't you want? I would have loved that job, and that's let Andy do all the other stuff.
Well, he's staying for one more year, and surprising to me, Andy Reid announced he is coming back to try for the 3-peat.
Of course he is.
And I don't blame him for the 3-peat.
I don't either.
I think if they would have lost, you would have said, I'm out. But the fact that they won and you get to be the first team to win back-to-back-to-back Super Bowls, that's impressive.
It would be, and they were making no bones about it. That's what they're going for.
Right. I'm really surprised you didn't say the Packers won 3 in a row.
They did, but the first one was an NFL championship.
It wasn't a Super Bowl.
It wasn't a Super Bowl at that time. Although, now we're playing what ifs. But if they would have played any team from the AFL at that point, they would obviously would have won it. But
they would have. But then the merger wouldn't have happened if the third Super Bowl wasn't won by the Jets.
Yeah.
It was perfect timing for the NFL.
It was.
The script didn't go through. Adam Schefter did say that CBS told him they were going into second overtime. And apparently that tweet got out and the NFL changed it at the end there to make sure that it didn't go to 2 overtimes.
I'm going to ask you an important question about the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
What was your favorite commercial?
Oh, the Arnold Schwarzenegger commercial, the Neighbor.
That was good.
Especially the one that had Danny DeVito the end.
That was awesome. I have to admit, the one with Matt Damon and Ben Affleck, Matt Damon made that commercial. It was hysterical.
It was so dumb.
It was Dunkin' Donuts.
I was cringing the whole time. And they did it on purpose. And it did what it was supposed to do because there was Dunkin' all over it. There was no question that was a Dunkin' Donuts commercial.
Matt Damon made that commercial because he was just like, I'm no part of this.
Yep, he did. Tom Brady was in it too.
Of course.
He got to stay.
He got to stay. He did.
There were a lot of good commercials. I have to say, the people that won was Bud Light. They were all over that Super Bowl. Everybody in that stands had a Bud Light.
And they paid a fortune for it.
I guarantee they spent minimum $100 million on this.
Probably.
They had to. They had no choice.
Considering what they lost and how they lost it.
They had no choice. It was money well spent. Bud Light did a great job marketing in the Super Bowl. But Arnold Schwarzenegger, for me, I'm an Arnold fan.
I love Arnold.
You know I'm an Arnold fan.
I know.
He is the bodybuilder. Arnold Schwarzenegger wins the Super Bowl commercial.
What did you think of the halftime show with Usher?
It was the most boring halftime show in the world.
Thank you.
The only one worse was The Who. When The Who played, that sucked. But this was so boring.
I put that out.
Yeah.
Big mistake because I had more women of a certain age reaching out going, it was great.
No, it wasn't.
Friends of mine who got on me going, you don't know anything about Usher. That was a great halftime show.
Well, you don't.
I don't.
But if you look at the halftime shows that had come before it, I mean, if we're talking the last 5 years, by far, you had Lady Gaga who put on a great show. You had Bruno Mars who put on a great show. You had Rihanna who put on a great show. You had
by the way, I know none of those people either. Lady Gaga,
they were great shows.
Lady Gaga, I know from Tony Bennett.
Yeah,
but you know,
God, you're old.
Yes.
Who was the other one? Ben Affleck's wife,
J-Lo.
J-Lo. She put on a great show.
Yeah.
This was boring. This because Usher is known for the slower R&B music. He had one big hit, which they played at the end, but even that was boring. I mean, the one with Dr. Dre and Eminem and Snoop Dogg was more exciting than this. It was boring.
When are they? And they've never, to my knowledge, they've never done this. But when are they going to have a country act do it?
I don't know. They had Reba sing the national anthem. She did,
which was unbelievable.
She did a very good job.
Actually, it was a tearjerker one. The way she did it,
she did awesome.
I was very impressed.
Still to this day, the greatest halftime performance of all time, and will never be touched, was Prince.
Oh yeah,
Prince was by far the best. It wasn't even close.
I saw something interesting about it because apparently it started to rain right before we went on. I had to watch it again.
Purple rain.
Yeah. They came in and said, "Look, it's really raining right now.
Yeah,
we don't know if this is going to happen." Prince looked at the guy and went, "Make it rain harder."
Yeah, he was ready to go.
Which is Prince.
That's Prince. Prince is one of my all-time favorite people as artists. Like, he was a cuckoo guy, but I mean, he was awesome.
One of the best memories of my life was when I lived in Bloomington, Minnesota.
Yeah.
Was at a bar, and I didn't realize it was someplace Prince went to.
Oh, okay, cool.
And the bartender just handed me 2 beers and said, "Go up by the stage." And he
came out.
It went from like 30 people.
How have I never heard this story before?
He went from like having 30 people in there to 3,000 in 20 minutes. It was insane. And it was when he was, I think it was when he was trying out, getting ready to launch Purple Rain.
Trying out new songs?
Yeah. It was unbelievable.
How have you not told me this story before? Or have you and I just
I think I have.
All right, I just didn't listen.
It was the best part about being up in Minneapolis.
Prince, he even business-wise, where he changed his name to a symbol.
He was brilliant.
Everybody gave him crap for that, thinking he was some egomaniac. But no, he did it because they said they owned, the studio said they owned his name. And he's like, cool, I don't have a name anymore. Own this.
He was brilliant. And look at all the careers that he started. I mean, Worst Day in the Time, Sheila E., on and on and on. He may have been, other than Lennon and McCartney, may have been the greatest composer of the 20th century.
Probably.
He's right up there.
Even his song for Batman was good. Hates Michael Jackson for thinking he set him up on stage once. That's a story for a different
one.
day. I want to talk to, enough with the Super Bowl. It was great.
Yep.
Chiefs win. I really thought that what's-her-face, Taylor Swift, was going to touch the Super Bowl trophy. Didn't touch the Super Bowl trophy. That was actually a pretty heartfelt moment between those two at the end. But on to another type of football, college football.
Okay.
So let's talk about this, the NIL. I've said my piece on it. I like that people are getting paid for their image, because I don't think it's right that colleges make a lot of money and the players don't. I think that's wrong. I don't like what it's become. The transfer portal is a joke and needs to be fixed, if not gone away completely.
Arch Manning making tens of millions of dollars and he hasn't played yet.
Right. I don't like it as a recruiting tool for freshmen. I really don't like that at all. Is it time that they bring in a cap on what people can pay?
I did hear something that it's really affected the NFL draft.
Yeah.
Because people aren't coming out like they did before.
Which, honestly, I've said that before. This is way before the show. I said that might be a good thing because people are staying in college. They're getting an education. But the issue is that people aren't getting education. They're not coming to class. It's just them playing football.
They're at a different university every other year.
But I also like it, too. It stops players from, especially in the NBA, it stops players from being one and done and going to the draft when they're really not ready to be drafted. They're not forced to make that financial decision that they normally had to make.
But what have we said on here for all of the 3 years we've been on here? The NCAA will break off and do their own. NCAA football will break off from the NCAA.
Yes.
And they will have their own organization. Basketball may or may not follow, but football for sure is. And they've got to get a handle on NIL because it's threatening to ruin the game.
I think that's why they're going to break off. And I disagree with you that you need an overarching commissioner on all this, but I agree with you in the fact that the NIL needs to be fixed. This is getting to be a problem. Transfer portal, I've always said, if a coach leaves,
let him go.
Let him go. That's a different ballgame. So like the players at Washington, I believe in that situation, you're allowed to go wherever you want.
Sure.
Because let's be honest, you don't go to a school, you go to a coach. You go to an organization.
But if you just are, I'm not getting enough playing time, I'm going to go. Oh, that's ridiculous. I don't agree with that at all.
No, I believe it should only be for coaching changes. Otherwise, you signed on. Now, there are all their situations. I've talked to college players in the past, and I get that there are situations where it's not what you thought it would be. But again, college it's supposed to be for going there and getting an education, but it's not that anymore.
Well, and let's face it, amateurism is shamateurism now, which they always used to say about the Olympics. But, at some point, do I think they should let the guys, if they do walk into a situation where they just aren't happy, you can go once. But these guys doing it twice and sometimes 3 times, that's ridiculous.
What do you think the cap would look like?
I don't know. Because the problem is you've got the boosters who are paying all this.
Correct. One, okay, how do you tell Nike that no? But I don't know how that would work.
They've got to figure it out. The agents are involved. The genie is out of the bottle, literally. And now they've got to figure out how to put the genie back in the bottle, at least tamp it down. And I don't know if they can do it.
It's like the Electoral College is just broken, but nobody knows really how to fix it.
We're not getting into that, but the Electoral College is the most brilliant.
I just wanted to see your reaction.
It's the most brilliant system ever set up for choosing a president of the United States.
Don't come after me. I just wanted to get his reaction on that one. That was fun for me. I don't know how you fix it. That's the issue. And I think that's the problem that people are seeing. The issue is that the NCAA knew this was coming for a long time. This had been on a political docket forever, especially in the state of California. You knew it was going to happen.
They put their heads in the sand and just ignored it. Figured, well, ignore it, it'll go away. Guess what? It never went away.
It hasn't gone away, and people are taking advantage of it. And you need to come together as the Power 3 schools, which it is going to be when it's all said and done. Break off, do your own thing, and then you have to figure out how to handle it from there.
Right.
And that needs to be part of the written rules. Is this is how this is going to be handled going forward before they break off.
And there has to be hardcore punishments if you break it.
To the schools, not the players, though. It's not the players' fault.
Isn't it?
No, if you offer me $10 million, I'm taking $10 million.
If the players know the rules that, look, I can take as much as $1 million in my second year, $5 million in the third year, I'm sorry. You've got to nail the agents, and it should be a systematic. The school gets punished, the agents and the sponsors get punished. Kid's got to pay the price too. He knows the rules going in.
I don't think these kids know the rules. And again, if you're offering me $10 million, I'm taking $10 million.
The people around them have to understand the rules.
They don't.
I know they don't.
I mean, it's like when Des Bryant lost his last year at Oklahoma State because he had lunch with Deion Sanders, lied about it because he was a scared kid that didn't know he did anything wrong and was suspended for an entire year. That's
Look what happened to Reggie Bush. He still doesn't have his Heisman back, and he should.
He should have never given it back. You and I agree on that. I just don't know if you punish the kid in that situation. I don't know if I agree with that.
I don't know. Maybe you don't, but...
Could be wrong. I mean, I'm willing to admit I'm wrong on this. I just don't...
I'm just throwing it out there, and I'd like to know what our fans think.
Yeah, you let us know what you think about the cap down below. Give us ideas on what you think this cap should look like. And while you're down there, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy the show as much as we enjoy making it.
So we'll get into more of that coming up over the next coming months, especially before college football. I saw something the other day that I sent to you that I thought was real interesting. It was the most hated teams by state. And I'm going to say this up front. The most popular teams in America are Dallas, Pittsburgh, and Green Bay. They're also the most hated. San Francisco. I don't know if San Francisco is on the same level as Pittsburgh, Green Bay, and Dallas. I just don't.
Yeah, maybe not.
But that also means that Green Bay, Pittsburgh, and Dallas are the most hated.
Not according to the map you sent me.
I was shocked. I mean, Green Bay is like the entire Midwest, the most hated team.
Check out the map here. You can see it on the screen right now. The fact of the matter is Philadelphia is on here 6 times. San Francisco is on here 6 times for 6 states. And Green Bay is on here 5 times.
Why is Philadelphia on for, what is that, Utah?
Yeah. I don't know. I guess a lot of Cowboy fans.
I guess. Dallas is in part of, what is that, New York or Pennsylvania?
I don't know. You're asking me geography.
Oh, it's in
now.
Virginia. Dallas. Okay, for Washington. I think Dallas would be the most hated team. And problem is, Pennsylvania, you've got to divide up because you're going to have Baltimore hating Pittsburgh, Pittsburgh hating Baltimore, Philly and Dallas hate each other.
Nobody likes the Jets. They're in a lot of states too, but that's too small for me to see.
That's New England. They're hated up there. I disagree with what they have Wisconsin. They have the Bears being the most hated team in Wisconsin. I don't think that's a fact. I think it's Minnesota.
Hated? No. That's why I think this was maybe asked differently. This almost looks like a list of who's your biggest rival. I don't know. Because I wouldn't say being in Wisconsin, being Packer fans, it's the Vikings.
Yeah.
It's not even close. Now, if you get closer to the border, I mean, that's different. We all know Bears fans that we strongly dislike, but that's more the fans. But if we're talking fans that I hate more than anything, the Minnesota Vikings fans suck.
They do. They come in and they're just not nice people in Minnesota.
You can't go to a game, and I judge fans based on I go to a game as an opposing fan.
By the way, I do like the people of Minnesota, but their Viking fandom is just...
Do you?
I met some nice people up there.
Have you?
Yeah, a couple.
Have you?
1, 2.
All right, there you go. Listen, southern Minnesota, I drove through that. Those people are just like people from Wisconsin. Big city areas, I don't know. They're pretty mean. I met some of those even in other states, and they were kind of jerks.
But I hate Minnesota way more than I hate Chicago. Maybe it's because Chicago hasn't been in the championship.
And if you are fans of Minnesota, by the way, you're awesome. We're not including you in this situation. But even the people from Minnesota that watch this, you know who we're talking about, and you know we're right.
Yes.
The same thing with people from Chicago. You know we're right about this, Just go along with it. Wisconsin, there's no bad people. They're the most wholesome people in the world. I'm joking.
Yeah, I
That's
don't.
Not true.
Wisconsin fans are pretty hated around the country. We are not well liked.
As you should. Here's the thing with Packer fans. If you come to Lambeau and you're a good fan, Bears fans can come to Lambeau. I've done it, had good times. Viking fans have come from Lambeau. I've been there. It's a good time because you realize you're a guest. You're just here for a good time. I was at the Lions game on Thursday night where Lions destroyed the Packers.
Mhm.
There were a ton of Lions fans there. Great time. It was a great atmosphere. It was a fun game because you're just there. People are drinking together, joking around, realize it's just a game. It's a lot of fun.
Correct.
If you come and be a jerk, I mean, people are going to be a jerk back to you. But if you go to a Vikings game and you're wearing Packer stuff, they're mean to you.
Which should never happen. I mean, we went to a game in Tampa. Some
Yeah.
kids were from Wisconsin, and they
Right.
were, when I say kids, they were 21, 22.
Yes.
At their very first game in Tampa.
Right.
They just happened to sit on
South end zone.
the south end zone.
Side you sit on. We
Yeah.
learned that
We
day.
learned it there too, but they were Tampa fans got drunk and just started picking on these kids,
Yes.
dumped a beer on one of them.
Yep.
To the point where other Tampa fans were going, get these guys out of here.
As you said, the other Tampa fans step up. Packers fans that go, because we've been at Tampa when they were there. I've been at Jacksonville when the Packers were there. Packers fans from different states, I understand why people don't like Packer fans. They are arrogant. They are obnoxious.
We cheered loudly.
Well, you don't understand you're in a guest stadium. Like, we are guests here. You have to be nice to the home fans.
Okay, except for the fact Jacksonville, Tampa at the time we were
There
there.
are more Packer fans.
There were more Packer fans there than
And
The
they
home
got
team.
obnoxious. Packer fans on the road are so dumb that they were cheering loudly when the Packers were on offense. Come on. Away Packer fans aren't the brightest bulbs in the bunch all the way. That is me calling out my own. I get why Packer fans in opposing stadiums are hated. I get it.
that being said,
In Lambeau, they're great.
yes, because they're season ticket holders, all
Right.
of them,
Correct.
and they're not going to do anything to jeopardize their season tickets.
Back to this list here. It is interesting to see that Philadelphia is the most hated on here. I don't get that at all. I guess there's a lot of Cowboy fans in
Must be.
Utah. You think there'd be more? Well, I guess the Raiders were in Oakland at that time.
Yeah,
It surprises me how many of these states don't have NFL teams in the West, Midwest area.
they're small
Dakota's
states.
is mostly Vikings fans. I get that.
Iowa,
There's a lot of Packer fans there.
there are, and there are a lot of Bears fans there, and there's Viking fans. It's almost a mishmash. It depends on where you live
Well,
in Iowa.
If you have 1/3 Packer fans and then the other 2/3 are Bears and Vikings, that makes sense why they'd be the most hated there. Ohio hates Pittsburgh. I get that.
I do too.
The best thing on this list, by the way, I'm going to put the map back up here so you can see it. This is my most favorite part of it.
You mean-
North Carolina, the Panthers are the most hated team. North Carolina is the state the Panthers play in. The most hated team in North Carolina is their home state.
Have you
team.
seen them play?
How is this possible?
Did you see last season's team?
I get it.
I think they're just frustrated with their owner.
Yeah, I mean, I would be too. But I feel bad for the Panthers a little bit here. You are the most hated team in your own state.
And looking at this map, I may have been wrong. San Francisco is up there with Green Bay, Dallas,
Dallas is on here
and
once.
Pittsburgh, which is wrong. It's just wrong. Dallas is much more hated. I think Dallas could even compete in Wisconsin for the most hated team. There's not a lot of
Why?
Dal-
Packers always beat the Cowboys. Well,
yeah, but
the
it's
other
still-
team has to win
it's
every
still
once in a while.
Dallas. I hate San Francisco the most myself.
I mean, San Francisco is hated in a lot more places, including Hawaii. I just realized they don't have Alaska.
You know what? Yeah, it is down the lower left.
Oh, that is. Oh, so they're most hated in... That's Alaska, not Hawaii. I'm dumb. They're most hated in Alaska and Hawaii. So they're actually the most hated team if you count the number of states. They're
Yeah.
hated by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 states.
I'm not sure about this map.
I don't know.
They've
either.
got Seattle hated in the entire state of California.
That's fair.
I
think Seattle's also more hated than the Bears in Wisconsin. But you let us know what you think about the list in the comments down below. Laugh at Carolina with me. And while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. This is something I've been itching to talk about.
And that is what?
The best players by number in the NFL. USA Today put that out a while ago, but you sent this to me not that long ago, and I really want to talk about this on the show because there are issues I have with some of these. Now, we are not going to go number by number. We're not going to bore you because 6, who cares? There have been no good 6. I mean,
Jay Cutler.
The answer was Jay Cutler, and that's just not.
That's wrong.
1, obviously, it's Warren Moon over Cam Newton. You're not going to pick a kicker. 2 is pretty obvious. So we picked out a couple of numbers we wanted to go on, and I want to know your opinions on this. But let's start at number 5.
Okay, that's Paul Hornung.
Paul Hornung is number 5. Do you really think Paul Hornung is a better player than Donovan McNabb?
Yeah. Yeah, he was the greatest. He was not only
I have Packer bias, so I agree with you.
I know. And
I have a Packer bias here.
They've got Donovan McNabb on here, who was an outstanding quarterback, but he's not in the Hall of Fame. I'm going to give the edge to the guy in the Hall of Fame, but he's not there yet.
The problem is he was so bad in Washington and in Minnesota.
Right.
Like, he was awful.
Look, Paul Hornung was not only a great running back, he started as a quarterback and was in those 50s teams, but he was an outstanding running back. People forget how good he really was.
He was, and when he started as a quarterback.
Right. I just said that.
Oh, I wasn't listening then. I was on to the next number, which is number 7. I listened to most of the things you say. I was moving on, though.
This is what I put up with all the time, folks.
Yeah, you're welcome. Number 7 was interesting. They picked John Elway.
As they
you can
should.
follow us, by the way. This is linked in the comment area in the description below, so to follow along. But number 7 was interesting because they picked John Elway. There are other options on here. One player I think that was better. Ben Roethlisberger also won 2 Super Bowls.
He did.
Has better stats all the way around than John Elway.
John Elway just could do things. I mean, he willed his team to win a couple times.
Right. He
could run. He was probably the strongest arm I've ever seen, even more so than a Brett Favre.
More so than Big Ben?
Yeah. This is generational. You got to watch him. I am not a John Elway fan for obvious reasons, but he was just that transcendent player that came out of that 83
Here's
draft.
The thing, and if something didn't happen with this, I think he'd be number 1 on this list. Michael Vick, to me, is the greatest number 7 to ever play the game.
Most athletic to ever play.
He was so exciting to watch, and the player he was in Philadelphia, he was turning into, and was such a better player.
I'm just looking at this list. George Halas wore number 7?
Yeah, I don't know. I just ignored that one.
For people who've done the most in football, George Halas should be the greatest player to wear number 7.
There you go.
But I'm not saying that.
Sold his soul for a Super Bowl win in 85. That's why the Packers are so good now. Thanks, George. Appreciate it. Number 8, they picked Steve Young over Troy Aikman.
No way.
Steve Young is the second most overrated quarterback of all time. I mean, it's not even close. The fact that he's number 1 on this list, the answer is Troy Aikman.
Maybe Ray Guy is also on the list, which
I put Ray Guy ahead of Steve Young.
I would too. Ray Guy transformed an entire position. Punter became a weapon.
Right.
Hang time was invented because of him.
But the answer is Troy
Aikman, without a doubt.
Another interesting number on here, number 12.
The number with all of the Hall of Famers.
So here's the list here, and this isn't even including all of them, but Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Roger Staubach, Terry Bradshaw, Jim Kelly, Ken Stabler, Joe Namath, Bob Greasy. Take your pick.
It's Tom Brady, obviously, but
it's Aaron Rodgers. Then I'm not biased at all.
Okay. Tom Brady is the GOAT. Well, he's in the conversation for GOAT with Bart Starr. Yes, I'm biased.
Yeah.
Aaron Rodgers is probably the best of all time because he had the best skills of anybody to ever play that position.
Correct.
He could do things Tom Brady could never think of doing.
Tom Brady's the pick. He had 2 separate dynasties under his belt and then went and won with a different team. So I get the answer is Tom Brady. But man, that was a heck of a list. They picked 14 as Dan Fouts, which I strongly disagree with.
The man who invented the wide receiver position and all the routes that are won, all the routes that have been run today, it's Don Hudson. It's not even close, and I like Dan Fouts.
Now, you mentioned in the last one Bart Starr here. We're going to move on to number 15 because it's between Patrick Mahomes and Bart Starr.
No, it's not.
But it's not.
It's not. Patrick Mahomes. I mean, as much as I love
Patrick Mahomes.
I love Bart Starr, but Patrick Mahomes has transformed the position.
We talked about this 2 years ago, and you were holding on to Bart Starr still.
I was holding on because I wanted to see him do it for a little bit longer, hoping he wouldn't.
It's Patrick Mahomes.
Patrick Mahomes. Move on with your day.
100%. 17, I disagree with as well. 17, they had Phillip Rivers.
Davante Adams.
It's Davante Adams.
I think so. I think that's what's going to be proven out over the years.
It's Phillip Rivers. Josh Allen's on here. Davante Adams. Don Meredith is also on this list. Don Meredith didn't win anything, which takes him off completely.
Neither is Phillip Rivers. Neither is Davante Adams. But
yeah, that's a good call.
Davante Adams is still the guy. Or Josh Allen. Josh Allen might take that over, depending on how things go.
I think Phillip Rivers is third on that list. I think it's Josh Allen. I think it's Davante Adams and Josh Allen, then Phillip Rivers.
I don't think it's Phillip Rivers for sure.
No. And we're only going through a few of these skipping around, but 20, it is Barry Sanders, but the list on here is Ed Reed, Rondé Barber, Brian Dawkins. I mean, it is a heck of a list at number 20. 21, I want to get your opinion on. 21, you have a choice. LaDainian Tomlinson, Deion Sanders, Charles Woodson, Patrick Peterson, Cliff Branch, and Frank Gore. Who is your pick?
Deion Sanders.
No.
Well, it's not LaDainian Tomlinson.
It is LaDainian Tomlinson. They made this pick correct. The answer, most touchdowns in a single season by a running back, it is LaDainian Tomlinson. What are you talking about?
It is Deion Sanders, the man who transformed No. You didn't throw to his side of the field when he was there.
Threw to LaDainian Tomlinson. LaDainian Tomlinson changed the way the running back position was looked at because he could catch the ball in the backfield, scored several touchdowns out of the backfield, and could run for touchdowns. No. The answer is LaDainian Tomlinson. The answer is
Deion Sanders.
No, it's not.
Not even close.
You're right. It's LaDainian Tomlinson. It's not even close. On to 24.
24.
Here's your list. Darrelle Revis, Willie Brown, Champ Bailey, Charles Woodson, Ty Law, Willie Wood, Lenny Moore, and Marshawn Lynch. USA Today picked Darrelle Revis. I can't argue with that pick.
I can. You've got Willie Brown on here, who is outstanding. You have Charles Woodson, unbelievable.
Marshawn Lynch, beast mode.
Willie Wood.
The
greatest.
Forgotten throughout history.
He is forgotten, but
he was Darrelle Revis before Darrelle Revis.
That's a good way to put it. He kind of developed. He was an aggressive player. He was one of the backbones of that unbelievably good Packer defense during those years. It's either Willie Wood or Willie Brown for me. But Charles Woodson's right there as a 1A.
I can't argue Revis Island on this one, but Marshawn Lynch?
Yeah,
come on now. 25, they picked Richard Sherman. I picked this number to go over because I know how big of a Fred Biletnikoff fan you are.
I love Fred Biletnikoff.
But the answer is Richard Sherman.
No, not necessarily. Fred Biletnikoff has a trophy named after him. The Biletnikoff Award in college. He was
slowest man to ever play football.
But he could run the routes. Stick him.
Yeah, which is illegal now. So he cheated. Got it.
He did not cheat. He never cheated. He ran those routes. He caught that ball for the Oakland Raiders. He was unbelievable. But it's Richard Sherman.
It's Richard Sherman. 28, I don't agree with at all. USA Today picked Marshall Faulk. You have other choices. Darrell Green, Adrian Peterson, Fred Taylor, Curtis Martin. The answer to me is Adrian Peterson. Adrian Peterson is the greatest running back of a generation. Marshall Faulk, also with LaDainian Tomlinson, changed the way the backfield was. He is the reason the Rams won the Super Bowl that they did.
You're making a case for Marshall Faulk.
He is, but Adrian Peterson, I mean, you had to plan for Marshall Faulk, though, too. I don't know, man.
Adrian Peterson, if he doesn't get hurt.
Yeah.
And I know you can't.
But he came right back from being hurt.
He did.
And he was suspended, don't forget.
He was just unbelievably talented.
It's a hard pick for me. I mean, Marshall Faulk also benefited from having Isaac Bruce and Torrey Holt on either side. By the way, this is proof that Kurt Warner had nothing to do with the success of that Rams team.
I can't believe. Let's leave Kurt out of this. That's why I'm glad we skipped 13.
That means Dan Marino is 13. It's not even a question.
Yeah, I know, but you would have found a way to bring it up. Boy, Marshall Faulk, Adrian Peterson. I might go a little edge to Faulk because of his catching ability, but Peterson is hard to argue with.
They picked Marshall Faulk. I don't know which way to go with that. I picked 32 on here. The answer is obviously Jim Brown.
Yeah.
That is the answer.
31 is Jim Taylor, just for the record.
It is. 32 is Jim Brown, Marcus Allen, Franco Harris, Edgerrin James, O.J. Simpson. There's a lot of good 32s.
He's a killer.
He was.
Sorry.
Okay. 33 I put on here because they just got wrong. Because the answer is Roger Craig. They chose Sammy Baugh.
No.
Roger Craig's another place. Is he in the Hall of Fame yet?
He should be if he's not.
I think he is now.
I'm not sure he is.
I don't know. We'll look that up later. You let us know in the comments below if he's in the Hall of Fame or not. 34, obviously Walter Payton, but again, the list, Thurman Thomas, Earl Campbell, Ricky Williams, Joe Barry, Cornell Green, Thurman Thomas, Earl Campbell are the big ones to talk about. Ricky Williams, an underrated running back. He was really good once he decided he wanted to play football.
Yeah, but
those Dolphin teams were so bad, people forget how good he actually was.
He had a really good career after getting drafted by New Orleans.
He did. 36, I don't have on the list, but I don't agree with it.
By the way, Craig is not in the Hall of Fame.
That's a joke. It's a joke.
It is.
Put Roger Craig in the Hall of Fame. Jerome Bettis is 36, but you have Leroy Butler, and who I think is the best is Brian Westbrook. People forget Brian Westbrook because of how good Ed Reed was at the safety position. He really got overlooked, but Brian Westbrook is one of the greatest safeties of all time. The other ones, here's the thing with football, this is why we didn't go through all the list. None of these other numbers make a difference. Like, there's nobody on here, so I'm going down to 58.
Okay, go ahead.
So 58, I'm still scrolling. 58 is Derek Brooks. 58, though, the option is Derek Brooks, Von Miller, Jack Lambert, Thomas Davis, Wilbur Marshall.
As good as Derek Brooks was, I'm going to give it to Jack Lambert.
I give it to Von Miller.
Again, generational. I mean, Derek
Brooks was really good.
Yeah, Jack Lambert was one of the keys to the Iron Curtain defense of the Pittsburgh Steelers in the 70s. He was just menacing and unbelievable. He'd be my pick.
And I know you haven't seen this number yet, and that's why I saved it. He really hasn't looked at this list, and I made sure you didn't look at number 66. I need you to scroll down to 66 and see.
I'm going to be angry, aren't I? If it's not Ray Nitschke,
it's not Ray Nitschke.
What?
It is Alan. What is it? Faneca? Is that how you pronounce his name? Guard for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Okay. No.
Ray Nitschke isn't listed till 4th on here.
Yeah, Ray Nitschke, the greatest player. The problem is, Ray Nitschke.
He's overshadowed by Dick Butkus.
He always gets overshadowed, and he was just as good as Dick Butkus,
if not better.
I'm not going to let my Packer fandom enter into it, but he was just as dominant. Ray Nitschke was a beast.
This is wrong.
It's just wrong.
You don't pick a guard number 1 anyway.
Except for 64. I saw Jerry Kramer.
There's no other 64s. If there's a 64 linebacker that's as good as Ray Nitschke, you pick that linebacker. But Ray Nitschke is number 1 on the 66 list. It's just wrong.
Okay, Pittsburgh fans, defend the pick. They can't.
They even know it's Ray Nitschke. 75 is interesting because they picked Joe Green over Deacon Jones. I didn't see either of them play. You did.
I did. Deacon Jones, the master of the head slap, probably had more sacks than any other player that's ever played the position, but they didn't count him back then. But Joe Green, again, just transformed that position. He was the Iron Curtain. No, it's Joe Green with Deacon Jones being just right behind him.
That's a tough one to pick.
It is.
On to 80. 80 is obviously Jerry Rice. Don't yell at me, San Francisco fans. I'm agreeing with this, but I pick this number because of how many people are there. So you have Jerry Rice, Steve Largent, Chris Carter, James Lofton, Kellen Winslow, Isaac Bruce, Andre Johnson, Rod Smith, Tom Fears on this list. That is a lot of really good 80s.
But it is Jerry Rice.
It is Jerry Rice, but that's a lot of good 80s. 81, I picked this to see what you think. There's a lot of good 81s. They picked Calvin Johnson, which I agree is the answer. They didn't pick Terrell Owens, Torrey Holt, Tim Brown, Art Monk, and they didn't pick
Night Train Lane.
Night Train Lane. He was second on the list.
So I never saw Night Train Lane play. I just saw the highlights.
Yeah.
He was a beast. It was men playing with boys.
Yeah, he's in the Ring of Honor for 3 different teams.
Yeah. I think if you earned that.
Calvin Johnson was that dominant, though.
He was.
Night Train Lane second on this list. I do think Calvin Johnson passed him because Calvin Johnson was always open. Period. No matter, he had 3 guys on him and was still open.
Because he could just reach up overall.
He's a freak of nature. And the fact that he only played 9 seasons hurts him, but he should be number 1 on this list.
Okay, I'm not going to argue with him. I mean, he was unbelievable, but Night Train Lane deserves mention.
84, I'm interested to hear your
Sterling
answer on
Sharp.
this. It's not. It's Randy Moss, and the answer is Randy Moss.
It is Randy Moss, but Sterling
But you
Sharp.
have Shannon Sharp on here, too. Andre Reed, Sterling Sharp.
Sterling Sharp should be in the Hall of Fame.
He should be. He'll get in there at some point.
It's going to take a lot of work. I don't know if he does.
I mean, they just put in what's-his-name this year, and he's literally on his deathbed right now.
Steve McMichael.
Steve McMichael.
Which, by the way, congratulations, but prayers go out to the McMichael family, what they're going through with ALS. I hope he makes it, because he is fighting ALS.
It'll be his. He's not going to last long after this.
I think he was waiting to get it put in, and congratulations to him.
But Sterling Sharp, I think, will go in the Hall of Fame, but it's Randy Moss.
It's Randy Moss.
87 is interesting because I don't know if I agree with this. USA Today picked Willie Davis,
who Hall of Famer.
But here's the list.
Green Bay
So you have
Packers.
Travis Kelce, Rob Gronkowski, Dave Casper, Reggie Wayne.
For me, it's Gronkowski.
Do you think Gronkowski's a better tight end than Travis Kelce?
I do. I think I saw some things, and we won't go into it, but I saw some things at the Super Bowl that bugged me about Kelce, and I'm not talking about him bumping into Andy Reid.
I mean, that bothered me.
It bothered me, but afterwards, he was working real hard to make himself the star of the show. That's what got him in trouble in Cincinnati. His head just got way too big, and I'm worried that he's going down the pass again. He is.
I mean, highest selling jersey this year by far.
But don't forget the hard work that you get there, and I think he works hard.
There's also a lot of 87s with Swift on the back now.
Of course. I think Jason's going to have a chat with his brother again.
Probably. But Willie Davis is number one on this list. I don't know about that.
Who's number 90?
I don't know. I haven't gotten to that list yet because we're going to go on to 88 with it, which I wanted your opinion on because they picked Alan Page from the Vikings as number one with a list of Michael Irving, Tony Gonzalez, John Mackey, Marvin Harrison, Lynn Swan, Drew Pearson.
Even Greg Olson.
Yeah, I didn't include Des Bryant or Greg Olson because I don't think they belong on the list. But
Alan Page, Purple People Eaters, I think they got it right. Although I think Gonzalez would be my second choice, not Irving. Although Irving was great. Alan Page was unbelievable for the Purple People Eaters. I know he was in that 70s run where the Vikings got 4 Super Bowls and won. How many Viking fans?
None.
Thank you. But he was unbelievable.
Ask again. I want to answer again.
How many Super Bowls have the Vikings won?
None.
Okay.
That was fun. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, on to 90, because you wanted to know. I think they did get this right. They chose Julius Peppers. It's going to change because you have on this list Neil Smith, Larry Brooks, Jason Pierre-Paul. Why is Jason Pierre-Paul on this list? But T.J. Watt and Ndamukong Suh. It's really between T.J. Watt and Julius Peppers. Right now, I think the answer is don't forget how good Julius Peppers was. People forget because a lot of his prime was in a bad Carolina situation.
Yeah.
Julius Peppers was every bit as good, if not better, than T.J. Watt. Now, again, as history goes on, this will change. As long as T.J. Watt can stay healthy, this list will change to T.J. Watt. And I think it did this year. I mean, this was written before the 2024 season.
Julius Peppers, new Hall of Famer.
Yeah.
I got into more arguments. People kept listing him as a Bear. I'm like, he's also a Packer, but he's mainly a Panther.
He was a Hall of Famer with the Panthers and the Bears. He was not a Hall of Famer with the Packers, but he did play for the Packers.
Played well.
Counts for the Packers. But right now, it's Julius Peppers. That's going to change over time.
I think T.J. Watt is going to be the answer in another year or two.
Yes, I agree. I think it has changed this year. I do think it has changed. And if it hasn't changed this year, it'll change next year.
He'll be the all-time sack leader.
Probably.
Maybe even the single season because he didn't get it this year because he got hurt.
92, I have a problem with. Did you see
Reggie White?
92. Scroll down and look. Yeah, it's Reggie White.
Yeah, there's nobody else.
There's Michael Strahan.
Again, there's nobody else.
It is Reggie White. The last one on the list that I really think has a chance to change, because everything else is pretty cut and dry. You have 99.
J.J. Watt.
It is not. It is Aaron Donald. Here's the list. Aaron Donald, J.J. Watt, Warren Sapp, Jason Taylor, DeForest Buckner. I think the answer is Aaron Donald.
I think it's J.J. Watt.
I don't think it is.
Aaron Donald is unbelievable. Don't get me wrong.
Nobody in the middle of a defensive line has ever been as dominant as Aaron Donald is. Ever.
Watt did
Wow, he had 2 really good seasons
Yeah.
and a good career, but he was hurt so much.
This answer would have been Warren Sapp for about 3 decades.
Well, for a decade.
He played in the 70s and 80s.
Warren Sapp?
Yeah.
Warren Sapp played in the 90s and
that's right.
2000s.
My bad. I'm thinking of Leroy Selman. I'm sorry. It's been a long day, folks. Sorry.
Warren Sapp was this answer for about 10 years. And then JJ came to the scene. And then it was JJ. And then Aaron Donald came to the scene.
We need to re-record that part.
We're going to leave it because that's more
I know.
fun.
I mean,
He's losing his mind, guys. I'm making the old jokes, but really I am concerned.
oh, stop it.
You let us know what you think in the comments below about these, and while you're down there, like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so you get to enjoy this show as much as we enjoy making it. We have had a great show, but as you know, you cannot have a conversation with your dad without your father getting the last word, so it is all you.
Okay. I know I've been down this path before, but it's time to go down it one more time. I respect anybody who's truly transgendered, and if they want to live their lives, live their best lives, please go ahead and do it. They should not be playing sports. In Canada last week, 5 guys who claimed to be transgendered started for a women's volleyball team. And of course, they destroyed the other team. Guys, do you really have that much trouble competing against men? Are you really getting beat up that badly and showing up that badly? Because you're not that good, obviously. Stay out of women's sports. Women's sports is important for everybody who's got a sister, a daughter, an aunt, anybody. This is about biology. It's not about psychology. Transgenderism is still not the majority of people in this country or in society. It's a small percentage. Those people need to go through the process and live their best lives. No problem with that. But they need to stay out of sports, women's sports. This is destroying women's sports. Look what happened with Bill Thomas against Riley Gaines in the swimming. Now we've got five transgendered in the same college going and saying, we're going to be the volleyball team. It's wrong. It's got to stop. That rubber band has got to snap back hard, and we have to protect women's sports. And I'll leave it at that.
Tim's opinions do not reflect the opinions of Sports Talk. I'm kidding. I actually agree with you a lot on this one.
I've got a daughter.
I know.
And if she was playing against guys, she's going to get hurt.
Yes, I agree.
Again, it's biology. It's not psychology. Go and live your best life, but you shouldn't be allowed to compete against women.
I agree. I'm on the same page. Thank you so much, as always, for watching. We really appreciate you being here with us, and we will see you next week.
Bye, everybody.